Hi, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Flitter. I'm the Community Ambassador for PlayMakers and the Chief Marketing Officer for Playbooks. And Playbooks is a wonderful platform that uses content to help us run effective meetings and collaborate with clients and team members. And PlayMakers is our community for ambitious business leaders. Very much like our guest today, Rustica Lamb. It's awesome to have you joining us today. How are you?
Thank you. It's really good to be here.
And thank you to all of you who have joined us for this half-an-hour webinar. And today we're talking about staff induction and onboarding programs. But I'd first like to know a little bit about your background. How did you get into helping companies with their staff onboarding? What's brought you to doing this? Why are you so passionate about it?
Oh, that's a very good question. Back in 2008, I actually went contracting from a job in selling training and recruitment for Morgan & Banks, for those who have been around for a while, which was a recruitment company, and decided to go contracting, obviously, when the 2002, not crash, but when things went a bit pear-shaped, went contracting. And it was really interesting at that time. For about 4 years, I was sort of cycling around all the red companies. So Westpac, Vodafone, back to Westpac, back to Vodafone. And it was all about induction, onboarding. And there's all these rewrites going on, because back in those days, everything was very manual. So everything was very paper-based, writing facilitator guides, writing participant guides. And that was in the days where, and obviously they're larger businesses, but they would have people in the classroom for 4 to 6 weeks, which is just not their luxury these days. So it's become more digitized. And I just love it, because the actual business impact that digitizing and actually making a very streamlined onboarding and induction program has huge benefits, from a productivity, cost, time, speed to competence type of view. And any company of any size can actually access those benefits. So I love it. I love helping businesses solve those sort of problems.
Yeah, awesome. So, it's, I guess when we wanted to kick off and kind of look at how do people do it badly, and why do people do it badly? I mean, I know, I've been gone through induction programs myself and roles, and certainly talked to lots of people who have been in, and sometimes they kind of, you can turn up to the office for the first day and everyone's like, kind of, who are you and where are you supposed to be? And, oh, we haven't got a computer for you and we're not sure what desk you're going to be at.
Yep.
And then you kind of spend your time walking around the office trying to figure out who's who and who do you need to make friends with to get your job done. So what are you seeing companies do badly in this space?
Well, I think the first thing is to just sort of outline what induction is as opposed to onboarding, because what I find is people do use them interchangeably, and it doesn't really matter what you call it. But again, languaging is so important in any development, whether it be onboarding, induction, staff development, management development. Even from a culture point of view in businesses, languages is just so critical. And I think, thanks for bringing that up. So induction really is when you're introducing someone to the job and to the organization. So as you've just said, is everything set up or not? So that really is about induction. Now that can happen and should happen at least on day one. Some companies will put it on prior to that. So they actually might have their induction prior to actually starting. So that's induction versus onboarding, which is you've got on the next screen, which is really about getting them on board to your social, your cultural and performance, so that things are going smoothly. Because as you said, if you get there and there's no computer for you to look at, you don't know who's going to help you get your job done because everything is in a system, that just slows things down and your speed to competence then becomes quite extended. So really, I just wanted to bring that up because people do use them interchangeably. It doesn't matter how you use them. Some people use orientation as well. So there's all different wording, but I think that just gives a bit of a taste for that. So seeing it done badly, like it's still done badly today. I work with a range of different size companies. Worked recently with a mid-sized financial services company where their technology meant, and obviously within the financial services, compliance and policies are really important. and they need to know these things. But what happened was their tech system, so they said, yes, we're going to actually digitize some of this, but then the system wouldn't allow them to drip feed over a period of time, day one, week two. And they ended up with like 32 policies and courses and attestations to do on day one. So all of a sudden you've got slammed on your inbox, and it's just like, oh my God, that's just things like that. I've had other instances where someone couldn't get into the building because they didn't know how to get into the building. Someone else didn't know the dress code, so they turned up dressed inappropriately and then they felt bad all day. Just stuff like that. And it's stuff we just take for granted, but we don't even think about. So.
And I guess it's all about that first impression, right? And if you're, like your financial services company, you walk in and you've got this kind of barrage of stuff, it's going to feel overwhelming from day one. And I certainly know, and some companies you go into, you go into the office and there's a laptop and everything's dressed up and you've got all the swag and this kit there, and all of a sudden it's just like this, you're feeling excited, you've got that energy there, you feel welcome. And I guess those are some of the experiences that we want people to start creating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it can, and I love that idea. And I often see that on LinkedIn, people will take a photo of their desk on day one and it's beautifully done and they've really thought about it. I think another thing you can really simply do, because it's often like, what am I going to do on day one? Actually having just a one-page agenda there. This is what you're going to do today. You're going to meet these people, then there's a morning tea, and then you're going to do some compliance, stuff, and then you're going to meet your manager and the team. And it could even be, I've seen some companies do a whole week. Here's your week in advance. And I think that's really nice. And technically you could really do that as part of the contract. So, but again, it's getting organized, having a checklist, having your processes in place to do that. And it's actually not hard to create a program that says, here's how you're going to roll out in the first week, first month.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're using Playbooks, then they would literally sign up to their Playbooks account, and they would have a calendar full of meetings and agenda items and playbooks of resources that you need to take them through there. So it's all kind of laid out and set, and it gives them the opportunity to then, I guess, look back at those meetings and look ahead and start planning and preparing for those types of things as well. So super good use case for Playbooks right there. Love it.
Oh, well, actually, I hadn't thought about that. I really like that idea. Yeah, because I love tech and I'm all about tech, and this is new tech, and I think that sounds fabulous. Yeah.
So first impressions are really, really important. You spoke about kind of induction being kind of pre-day one, if you like. So if we're thinking about that program of work, what should that induction program look like? They've been, you've sent them out, you've run them up and you've said, awesome, you've got the job, Justin. Welcome to the team. What should happen in that few weeks before they actually walk into the building?
So obviously there's the obvious stuff like sign the contracts, do your tax forms, like all of that stuff. I have seen organisations, because remember, induction is about introducing them to the job and the organisation. So it might be before they even come in that the manager has a phone call and says, look, this is going to be, you've signed the contract, you understand your role, here are some things, and they have a conversation prior to that. It could be, and I've seen others where they've got an online system where they say, please watch these videos of the CEO talking about the vision and the HR director talking about the values of the organisation. So it's about the job and it's about the organisation and the culture of that. So whether that's done pre, and it can be a bit of work to get that stuff out pre, but I think personally from my point of view, that induction should at least be done by the end of day one, because it's about job and it's about the organisation. And then you can start the onboarding, the expectations and the social and the culture and that stuff, should happen afterwards. So, but again, depends on the culture of the company. If you're a fast growing tech startup, you might mash that up a bit. So this is all just sort of suggestions of what I've seen done.
So if you're whether you're a big corporate or whether you're a high growth tech company that's, you might be hiring multiple roles all at once. Do you onboard people, or do you induct and onboard people kind of one-on-one? Do we bring them in as a cohort? What are you saying as best practice there?
I think in terms of that, I talked to one company, and it was a 40-person engineering consulting company, and the CEO wanted to talk to every single person that came in, and they were in a high growth phase. And it's like, why would the CEO do that? Because it's just, from a use of time point of view, like it just seemed like a low use of time for a senior manager, let alone the CEO, to be doing that. So I would always say where that's an over and over and over thing, I would be digitizing it, whether it be a video on the intranet, whatever it might be, because not only does it save time, it also allows for a consistent and standardized message. Because depending on how the person's feeling at the time, they might miss something, it might be rush. It's just, you want to make it consistent and standardized as well. So best practice, I would do that from a consistency point of view. Yeah, does that answer the question? I also feel like I've...
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're right. I mean, you kind of see, when you've got 4 or 5 people all joining at the same time, you're all there in the office together, and you kind of meet everyone, and everyone kind of feels connected because you started on the same day, and you can, the CEO can come and speak, and you're kind of getting that tour around the place. It's kind of a bit different now when a lot of teams are remote as well. How does that kind of change things from getting people engaged into the different people in the business?
Well, that's one thing that hasn't gone away, is that, and being from a learning background generally, that need for human connection has not actually abated. And we're so lucky in New Zealand that we've been able to get together. But if you know how to use the technology well, like Zoom, like there's breakout rooms. I attended an event for 3 hours, and I think sitting on Zoom for 3 hours would be a nightmare. But it was really engaging. Like, they had us off in rooms, and you didn't know who was going to show up. And because the person running it was controlling it, it's like, right, and then you get this countdown, 10 seconds, and you're back in the room. It was very well done. So I think you can use technology, and Zoom's free for 45 minutes or whatever it is. You don't need to be spending lots of money, but I still think that getting together in person is really important, whether it be coffee, wine, whatever. But having experiences together builds that relationships first.
Yeah. So let's go into that onboarding process. So I've kind of got into that that first day. I can share the slide if you want to in here.
Yes, slide 4 would be great.
Yeah. So one of the things you've provided is this kind of 90-day plan, which is a really good kind of template and guide for people thinking about how are we bringing the team on, and some of those experiences that we want people to have, right? So take us through that.
So what I would do if anyone, is wanting to, DIY an onboarding program, is go to Wickles or wherever your stationery shop is, and get one of those big rolls of brown paper, and put it around 2 walls in a room. Oh, have I lost you? I've lost the...
I'm here.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. Put that around the wall. I saw your screen sharing, and then it's disappeared. Put that around the wall, and then from the point of view of wanting to know what's happening when, you want to know, so across the top there, pre-start, day 1, week 1, week 2 through, essentially, what do they need to be knowing, doing, and feeling on each of those that time. So I've just put some examples in there. So, pre-start, they might want to know office hours, dress code, they've signed their contract. What do they need to do? They need to sign the paperwork. And as importantly, how do you want them to be feeling through that process? Like, you don't want them at the end of day 1 to be feeling overwhelmed, stressed, thinking they've made the wrong decision. So really sort of mapping that out, and not just of trying to do it from scratch, because all businesses and organizations will have current content. They go, oh, hey, remember that conference when the CEO spoke and it was amazing and it was about the vision and the future direction? Drop that in, use what you've already got. And importantly today as well is compliance. Like, at what point do you give them compliance? Like, don't give them all 32 on day 1, but what's the most important for day 1? It's probably health and safety in the office. How do you keep safe? But by the end of week one, you probably wanted them to understand the risk policy. By the end of week 4, maybe the privacy policy, particularly, and you line it up with what they're doing. So if they're not in front of customers or customer data for 4 weeks, don't give them the privacy policy on week 1, day 1. They probably need that about the time they're going into talking with customer or handling customer data. So really just that's a way to map it out. And who should be in the room for that? I always say make sure you've had a recent person who's been onboarded, because they will give you the most valuable feedback. They say there's a honeymoon period for 3 months. So if you've got someone that started in the last 3 months and you've got a culture of safety and sharing experiences and giving feedback, really great people to get in the room.
And I love the, some of the different events that you want to have. So, having a barbecue or getting everyone together for the after 5 drinks and making sure they're there. And I guess getting them to kind of introduce themselves as well. Like it's, what's their story? Where have they come from? And it's about, like you said, it's about creating those human connections with our team members. And so I guess some of those different activities and games that we can play to kind of break the ice and get everyone, feeling like they're part of the team and getting them involved is really, really key, right? And whether it's in person or via Zoom, it doesn't really matter, but it's just so key, right?
Well, I was mentoring someone the other day, and she was going to have a Zoom coffee with someone. Like, you just would never have heard that 18 months ago, have a Zoom coffee with someone.
So you mentioned, different tools available to help digitize some of this process. And, certainly with the documents that you need to sign policies and things like that, there are a bunch of different tools. Obviously, we would love to see everyone putting all of these documents into playbooks as part of your meeting schedule. And perhaps they would link out, you might need to have a tool, especially if you're a company at scale where they need to sign off and those sorts of things. So what sort of tools, what ways are people using tech to support this induction and onboarding process?
So it's quite interesting. So 5 or 6 years ago, there was technology out there that was sort of like an integrated end-to-end employee journey from, first from like contract signing, or even before that, applicant tracking. So people are applying for jobs, and they've got the signing of the documentation, like all this sort of one system covering everything. But what that meant was everything was quite light, including the learning system. So, and that's obviously my background in learning management systems and learning tech generally. But it was this one thing. What seems to have happened now, there seems to be a best of breed type scenario where you'll get the best learning system, the best applicant tracking system, the best HR system, like it. And what people are doing is connecting them, because the technology is there now through APIs, which is just a connector to share data. And they get going best of breed. So for example, one recent one, Bamboo HR. Now I've got nothing to do with Bamboo HR, but they do the whole applicant tracking, et cetera, So but then they would link into a learning management system, but would also link into Microsoft Teams. So there's all of this sort of best of breed type scenario going on at the moment. It really comes back to what the requirements are, because some people want to be able to provide a digitized learning experience. And in my experience, and actually, if you can put up slide 5, this is a really good example of a company, WD-40. So Gary Ridge, who's actually the CEO, ex-Aussie, but now in the States. Just let me know when that's up.
Can you see that one or the next one?
It's got WD-40, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see there that this is a company that really believes, learning is everything. There are no failures. Everything is a learning moment. So that's a cultural thing. But you can see the results of that. Like, it's just phenomenal. Like, from an engagement score point of view, like that's incredibly high. And they've got, tens of thousands of employees around the world in all these different countries. So you can get phenomenal results from really believing that actually learning and upskilling and training and development is an important thing. Wouldn't companies just love to have 99% of their people saying, I love working here? and people wanting to go and work there because they've heard great things about the career development and general development that they might get. So there's a real benefit to it, but not doing it can have the complete opposite. So I think it really is, can be an attraction strategy, and it can be a retention strategy as well. So for those that have got turnover.
How do you measure the success of your induction or onboarding programs? How do you, these guys, they've got 99%. What's a great or some good ways that that you would suggest to, help us score that or measure the success of these programs?
So thinking about measurement, you've got to do it before you even start. It's got to be part of the planning of the initiative. So, for example, one of the companies we helped, and I think it's on, let me just check it here. We helped a health tech company with their global induction. So it had all been done manually in the field in different countries. And by just digitizing some of it, so we did the big wall planning that you saw, the brown wall planning with the program, that they measured that. They had a 58% reduction in delivery time. So that was people on the ground doing what they were, doing the training. But they also had a 47% cost saving per learner. So can be some massive things, but I'd help them at the beginning to say, okay, what are the metrics we're going to look at? So we're going to look at delivery time, and we're going to look at the cost. There's no flights, there's no facilitator time, there's the lost opportunity time of people being in the classroom. So you've got to measure that up front. And even just yesterday, I was talking to someone, and she was rolling out a new platform, and we're talking about the fact that actually now there's going to be no classroom time, or there's going to be very little. How does that actually impact? And we worked out that time, actually, and it was not just the time in the classroom, it was the sales reps who now had a tool they could search and find content really quickly. And we just multiplied that by hours and et cetera. There was $126,000 of human time being saved by digitizing it. And I think the platform cost was like 1/10 of that. So, but you've got to be making sure that you say, what are we actually trying to achieve from a business goal point of view? And is it a productivity issue? Is it a cost issue? What sort of issue is it? And think about that and put those in place as you develop the content. So it's not just about the content delivery, it's about what's the business impact and why are we actually doing this.
And I guess, that's the key reason for this, isn't it? It's time to productivity. It's about getting your new people onboarded, feeling good, know what they've got to do, know how to be resourceful and to connect with people. Where is that content? Where is that information? And getting productive quickly, right? So you don't want them to spend 3 months figuring out what they're supposed to be doing. We want them to be able to hit the ground running, right? So having a great program like this is going to get that, it's going to shorten that time down. Awesome. Is there anything else that you have seen, any other examples that you can shed light on things that you've seen done really well?
Sadly, I've seen things done not so well. Probably the health tech one was probably the best example I've seen, where they really did just blend it. They took a whole lot of stuff they already had in the business. They created some new digital content. They rolled it out well. They communicated it well. Like, it was done very well. It can be confusing from a technology point of view, because there's so much tech out there, and especially since COVID, there's even more exciting and interesting tech that's come through. So yeah, it can be confusing. Yeah,
but it's so important to invest that time to get that program together, so that you can create the best experience for your new people. And as you said, the benefits that from a team and culture productivity standpoint are game changing, right? So look, I've really enjoyed our chat today. It's been super useful. I'm gonna take some tidbits and insights out of this, and we'll write up a blog post, and we'll be able to share it with everybody afterwards. But thank you to everyone who has joined us for this session today. And Rustica, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. It's really appreciated. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the chat.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. We will see you at the next PlayMakers webinar.